Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Star Citizen Live, all about Alpha 3.9. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and joining us on the show this week is Star Citizen Live Game Director, Mr. Todd Papy. Todd, how you doing, man?
Hello.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Welcome. We got some unintentional red versus blue thing going here.
This is actually orange,
Is it?
so
No? Okay. Well,
yeah.
all right. We might have to check the color on our monitor here. It's all right. Only I look at it. Okay. If you've never seen Star Citizen Live, it's where we take questions from you, the Star Citizen backer, and pose them directly to our developers. You can submit your questions in one of two ways. We are running fast because we're a little bit behind here. You can submit your questions live in the Twitch chat by prefacing your question with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. You can also do the same on Spectrum, which is our communication platform available on robertspaceindustriescom. If you're watching this later on YouTube, hello. You can't participate, but you can watch. All right. So, as usual, we put up a thread earlier in the week. We started collecting questions for those who maybe couldn't be here and allowed the ones to be voted up by the community through the course of the year. And right off the bat, let's start with there while the questions come in live. Since the introduction of server-side object container streaming, desync has dramatically increased. What is causing this desync, and what is the fix?
So it wasn't SOX that caused it. There was a physics issue, and in fact, I had asked. There was a physics proxy refactor that was done, and we had that fix ready for like 3.8.2. However, the code base between 3.8 and 3.9 had changed so much, so we deemed it too risky to actually check it in. So we checked it into 3.9. It's in 3.9. Ideally, we think that fixed the root of the problem, and then if we run into any kind of edge-based issues, we'll go in and fix those case by case. But ideally, most of that has been, resolved for that. Now, obviously, there's other factors that play into that, whether that be servers lag or even we kind of have some internal lag built in. So, and we're trying to work those issues out right now to reduce as much latency as possible. We know that it's there. It is a focus of ours because it is a huge quality of life issue that needs to be resolved.
Right, we've talked about the physics refactor a couple times on this show, actually, throughout the last quarter. It's important to remember that while server-side object container streaming was a big tentpole feature of 3.8, it was not the only feature that went in. So it can often, when you see issues like that, it's often easy to go, oh, that was the biggest one, that must be it. But in this case, it was the physics refactor. Okay, the number 2 question is the ship-to-ship spawning making it into 3.9?
Fast answer, no. So basically, it's on our radar, and if I remember correctly, I believe we are working on it in some factor, but it's not going to make it into 3.9.
Yeah, and for anyone that maybe doesn't know what that is, it's the ability to spawn your ship with its parasite craft within it. If it's the Carrack, it's the Pisces and the Ursa, stuff like that. We want it as much as you guys. I can promise you that. I've heard Chris bring it up a number of times in the various review meetings and stuff like that. It's just, as with all things, priorities. Are you aware of the ship duplication bug from the live chat?
Yeah, we've had a couple of factors that we've been dealing with. Obviously, we really saw it on 3.8.1 is kind of where it reared its ugly head, and then from there we tried to do some hot fixes for it. So if it's rearing its ugly head again, then send those things in, and we'll get it fixed. I mean, because it should just be a hot fix versus having to roll out a whole new patch.
Right. And of course, when he says send it in, we're referring to the Issue Council, which is a thing on robertspaceindustries.com where you can submit your own bug reports in much the same way our QA team does. And then you can verify the bug reports that have been submitted by other backers and help us find these things and track these things down even faster. Because again, as we've discussed several times, the same resultant bug can be caused by a multitude of underlying features. So just because you see it submitted already doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't submit yours, because it may be happening for you for one reason and it happened for that person for another reason. And the more reports we get and the more you can verify them, the more it allows us to track down the multiple underlying causes of these things. So,
or it gives us another repro case
yes,
to actually get to it.
I was trying to think of the Starship Troopers thing. I'm doing my part, but
Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah.
congratulations.
Hey, it's always a good thing when you think of Starship Troopers. Like, it's never a bad time to think of Starship Troopers.
True.
Okay, next question. Have there been any major improvements to server-side OCS?
So
Fully understanding that
clear.
you're not a programmer and an engineer.
No. And in fact, I talked to Rob Johnson, our lead programmer in UK, about this, and not player facing. Now, there's been a lot of work done it's on basically how we edit and how we work on things. Think of it as you work on a file, you export it, and then now you have an OC. Now, a lot of times, let's say a space station is made up of multiple OCs, planets made up of multiple OCs. Now, what we've been doing is trying to allow the designers and the artists to go into a high-level OC, crack it open, and then be able to edit and adjust things. And so it increases the workflow versus having to, okay, I have my big OC that has everything, and then I go to one of those smaller OCs and open up a different editor window, and then basically just keep on stacking editor windows open until I find the one that I want. So this is a way for us to kind of crack things open and almost like Russian doll it down to what we need to do to fix it. And then, so we're working on things that increase our workflow and increase our iteration time.
Yeah. Definitely one of it's on ISC this week we showcased the particle layer separation tool that was made for VFX. It's oftentimes it's just as important to be developing internal facing tools and tools. Basically, I was looking for another word that meant tools to help us track these things down and isolate where the issues are, with the Russian nesting doll thing you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the equivalent, like if something takes 20, 30 minutes to check on and see if you got it right, and like you can only do that so many times in a day. But obviously, if we can get that down to a minute to check on it, then you're going to be able to get more iterations on it, make sure it's right, and then basically move on to the next task. So we want to tighten that loop as much as possible.
Okay. The next couple questions are all, will this be in 3.9? Hey, it's all about Alpha 3.9. Will player-to-player direct cache transfers be in 3.9? This is a major pain point for any group play at the moment.
It is. No, it's not. Sorry.
It is a pain point.
It is a pain point. We know that. It's not going to be in 3.9. Basically, we know that we need to refactor the Mobi Glass and actually get it into building blocks, and then that allows us to scale. So, from my standpoint, that is one of my highest priorities, and I can kind of lay you out the highest priorities from a UI standpoint. So on our EU vehicle feature team, we actually have people that are working on the ship HUD and basically moving towards what we need to do, and you start seeing elements of it being moved out, or being not moved out, but being pushed out with each release. So basically the center part of the screen versus the upper corner or the MFDs, we kind of just work through each section, and it's the same thing with the player visor. So basically right now we have the bottom left hand corner, which is the actor status, and then from there we'll be doing the mini map, and we'll be doing the weapon section, and we'll be doing mission notifications and tutorials. So basically we've got the EU vehicle feature team, part of that team working on the ships, and then we've got part of the actor feature team working on the visor, as well as some of the UI feature team to kind of balance between the visor if they need help on those, and then the next thing would be the Mobi Glass. And
we've touched on this before. You don't want to we try to minimize temporary work as much as possible. The Mobi Glass right now is made entirely out of Flash, and we want to convert it to our new building blocks tech, which we first discussed on ISC a couple quarters ago. If we built the technology into it now, if we did the transfers now, we'd have to redo it later because we'd be building it for Flash. We'd have to redo it for building blocks. So it's one of those. It's rather than spend our time doing work that we know we'll have to throw away in the near-term future, where it just has to wait. It's a matter of priorities. But we're very aware. We're very aware. We were actually doing an internal playtest here with the video team last week, and one of us had a lot of money, and none of the other ones did, and we were very much like, I would like to just be able to give you money.
So the big thing from us, I think with the Mobi Glass is basically getting that home screen done right, and then from the home screen, then it will become basically which prioritized apps. Now S42 has some apps that they need, and then obviously PU has the existing ones that we have, as well as other ones that we've thought about. The transfers, even how are we going to clean up, the journals and the logs, and so that it's easier to use and track. And obviously the contract manager really needs to be cleaned up as well. So like there's other apps, but as soon as we get the home screen, then we'll be building in templates to actually get the other stuff as well.
There's a question from live chat about once Mobi Glass is rebuilt in building blocks, can we have an app to remote start our ship? People want to be able to just turn on the lights and unlock the doors.
I would prefer that just be on the player. It's almost like cars nowadays. If you have just a remote starter, like I'd rather we do it that way, where you set up something on your ship, and as a remote start, and then you get close and it unfolds, opens up, and
like it already, like just like a proximity alert kind of thing. You get
I would prefer it to be that way. So I don't think it needs to necessarily be Mobi Glass.
Cool. Will physicalized inventory make it into 3.9?
No, that's waiting for iCache. Basically, we have what we call internally the piss pit system. It's a wonderful name, I know.
We're really good at naming things here.
So it's the personal inner thought aspect, and being able to pull things off and adjust the way your hotkeys are working, and kind of what inventory you have on your person at that time. So but as far as physical inventory, and because right now everything's global, us switching over to physical inventory, we need to wait for iCache to come in first.
Right. And if you're for more conversation about what iCache is and how it works, we talked about it a bit at CitizenCon, and then again in either one of the last two pillar talks. They start to blur together, but lots of stuff to know about iCache there.
I think that was in the first pillar talk.
Well, your first pillar talk, which would have been the third pillar talk episode.
Yeah,
that airs. We make a lot of videos. Will pirates be able to sell cargo from stolen ships in 3.9?
Yes. Well, actually, from stolen ships or blown up ships. From blown up ships, yes. From stolen ships, I would have to check in on that. My gut feeling is no right now, if it's not working. Okay. Basically, if somebody's taking notes, then send me a note to check up on that.
Okay. Unified friends list is coming. We saw our first look at that in ISC earlier this quarter. Is there more grouping and friends work? Is there more?
Planned?
Yeah, planned. Yeah. The wording was a little weird there.
Yeah, I mean, this will be our first iteration on it, and then from there, I definitely think that there'll be more things planned, to I mean, right now, I think this is a pretty good, what we would consider tier zero, a minimal viable product for it. The one going in, not the one that we have right now. So, from there, I'm sure there will be some UI issues or maybe some backend services or some stuff on Spectrum that we'll need to clean up. But I think this one's been thought about and from a player standpoint, this is moving forward well.
It is cool in the test. I mean, it's a simple thing, but in the test, you can bring Spectrum up on one screen, the game client up on another screen. You can add a friend, and it immediately pops up on one, and do the same, and the vice versa, and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
so it's an important first step towards.
It's cleaning up a lot of the issues that we had. I mean, the friend stuff before wasn't very intuitive, and then even on the back end, there was almost like 4 different lists, that it had to keep track of. Now it's one unified list, and so there's been a lot of work, from a technology standpoint to go in and make this work. Again, working on the website as well as working on the clients. So I think it's a big improvement.
Yeah, it's not a flashy feature like a new planet or a moon, but it's so important to an online game, online multiplayer game, to make the process of finding friends and playing with your friends as easy and efficient as possible. Will we see an increase in player server capacity for 3.9?
No. Right now, I think we talked about it last time. Like the server frame rate still isn't running the way that we want it to run. We have some code fixes in there. It's not a death by 1,000 cuts, but it's basically there's no silver bullet, for it right now. So we're going through and this was another thing that I was talking to Rob about is basically kind of what the plans are to hit this hard. And we have some code that's coming in that we feel will allow us to evaluate those things better and basically kind of see the outlier and see if we're getting stalled on any thread, and then figure out how we can work that out and reduce that stall. So obviously that will have impact on the server, and then ideally get the server frame rate up first before we start adding new people in.
We run into a gamut of food-related questions next. Will we be able to buy food at the various food courts and many landing zones in the game and drink at the bar in 3.9?
Yes. So, I mean, the bartender stuff is going in right now. So, but yes. So you'll be able to buy it from vending machines, as well as I think there's the pizza brokers and stuff like that. So
you mentioned,
and then
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, right now the bar, like we're just making sure everything is copacetic and it works on the feature work has been done. Now there were some issues that we just wanted to see and kind of make sure everything's good, and running it in situation as well as running it with internally what we call services, which is basically mimicking the online state. And sometimes there's been disparity between what you see in kind of like an editor versus on the server. So it's just making sure that there's no disparity and everything's good, and then it should just go in.
You mentioned vending machines. The next question is Big Benny's.
Actually, I think that I misquoted myself. So I not misquoted. I said something wrong. Vending machines will not work. So it's something that we were working on, and basically it just didn't make it. So there's us thinking about obviously the Big Benny version, but there's a holistic approach that we want to make sure that it works, and basically acts like a vending machine. And we didn't get that working for 3.9. So at the food courts and at the bar, yes, you can get food and drink, but not at vending machines.
Okay. Then hopefully it's the last food-related question. Are we going to be able to store food in the ship's kitchen area? Almost
Not for
300.
3.9. However, you can store packaged food on your person, same with drinks, and then you can use it that way. But you can't do it for, I guess, theoretically, you could buy a bunch of stuff and just kind of place it in there, but it's not like somebody's filling the fridge for you kind of thing.
Hundreds of people voted that question up. The people really want their kitchenettes. We've talked for a while about the HUD rework. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, the different pieces. How much of the HUD rework will we see in 3.9?
You'll see the visor. Obviously, the center of the screen on the ships, that's been reworked and is with building blocks now. And then there's other HUD elements like certain kiosks and other things have been moved over from Flash to building blocks. The group system, so there's elements like on the FPS visor. So if you kind of break it down into different screens, sorry, I'm going to look at the monitor real quick.
Okay.
Basically, you've got your bottom left-hand side, that's building blocks. Everything else right now is Flash, and then we're kind of working our way through the quadrants, to switch everything over. And it's the same thing that we're doing with ships.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like a rip the Band-Aid off and one day you come and there's a brand new top to bottom, fully different HUD. It is we're replacing the elements.
Yeah, we're doing it in patches. So, and we're doing it in pieces. So, if we could get all four done, in that time, fantastic. But right now we've got the bottom left-hand side screen, and then obviously the center for the ships, and then from there, it's just a process of just switching everything over.
I thought we were done with food, but if you buy a granola bar and it's wrapped, does your character eat the wrapper or unwrap it?
It actually unwraps.
This is a Chris Roberts game. There's no way he'd let us just eat the wrapper.
Correct.
No way.
And we saw it 3 days ago. I saw somebody unwrap it and then basically take 3 bites and Chris got very excited about that.
That was on Tuesday. Okay, I remember that was Tuesday.
Yeah, it was on Tuesday.
I won't say the next part. Is there still a small team working on quality of life bug fixes? The game keeps getting new stuff, but there are still loads of persistent bugs that make playing what we have frustrating.
It's actually company-wide. So it's not one small team. It's company-wide that we work towards fixing this stuff. So internally we have issues that, let's say, QA bring up, or issue council, or other factors. Somebody playing the game just doesn't like it. We have in Jira, we have a label called QA GP review, which basically just means QA gameplay review, which then comes directly to me. I triage it, and then I add what we would consider a gameplay experience label on it. And so out of our bucket list out of our bucket of bugs, we have what we consider gameplay experience bugs, and any of those gameplay experience bugs have directly to do with quality of life. So when we're actually doing bug fixing and release supports, throughout the second half of the quarter, those quality of life, or basically the gameplay experience bugs, get risen up to the top and get resolved. Now, because in the past what was happening was we were actually building up a lot of bugs, meaning we would get, and we have bugs broken down into 5 different categories: basically blockers, criticals, highs, moderates, and trivial. Now, a lot of the polished stuff and a lot of things that kind of just affect the quality of life, are really highs, moderates, and trivials. So any of the blockers or criticals basically got resolved, but then that left a lot of high, moderates, and trivials. So this is our way of saying, no, I view this as very important. And so team, you need to work on this. And it's something that's throughout the quarter. I'm always chasing down, trying to make sure that the feature teams as well as the content teams, have very clear focuses on all right, for the ships, like I want to make sure that we're going through and we're hitting the manufacturer really hard and going through and squashing as many bugs as we possibly can. For that, for locations, then it'll be location by location. Obviously, for feature teams, I just want to make sure that they're going through all of their features and making sure that we have a small amount of issues on them. So then, because we are a live product and we need to have it running not only for the PU but also for S42, these quality of life issues also affect us when we're developing the game as well.
I was going to add something, but no, you got it. When you go to eat or drink, Tyler, now he's feeding me only food-related questions. When you go to eat or drink, do you have to take your helmet off first?
I'm trying to remember this. I think right now, no. I think so, but it might be that yes, you do, because we have the ability to block the players from doing certain actions. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
Because the next question is actually related to it. It says, will we be getting a remove helmet button with 3.9?
No, not for 3.9. Basically, we have the ability to do it, and something that we were working on. We have it working with a few helmets, but obviously we have a dearth of helmets in the game that we need to go through and do. And the content team just didn't have enough time to do a pass on it. So
gotcha. Why would it not affect? Why would a remove helmet not just work for every helmet across the board? Is it because of the animations? Because each helmet comes off
different
differently?
sizes of the helmets, and basically, when we actually take the helmet off, I think we're moving it to the hip, and
Right.
carrying it around. So there's a lot of there were some things that we needed to resolve and make sure that the bubble for the helmet and everything like that worked. It's something that they're actively working on right now. It just won't be there for 3.9.
Because we don't want it to just, you hit a button and the helmet just disappears.
Correct.
Okay. We've heard very briefly about volatile or perishable cargo. It was mentioned in the roadmap roundup. We've mentioned it on SCL a couple times. What is it?
So what we have working right now for volatile cargo is based off of the prospector and the mole is. So when you're mining, and then let's say your ship gets jostled or based off of what you mine, there's a time associated with it. It will basically become volatile, and so it can destroy your ship, or you would have to jettison it. So we have it working for the prospector and the mole, because the way that the prospector and mole is they have their own internal cargo grids. So I don't want people thinking that it will work with the cargo that you carry around by hand right now. So that's the next step that we want to do, but we need iCache first. Before we do that, then we can do it for the hands and for the other cargo boxes. But for 3.9, when you're mining, we've added a button on the dashboard. So basically, when you're flying around, it'll start blinking, and then when it becomes too hot, or basically too jostled, then it'll blow up, and so you need to jettison it before it does it.
Trying to think of why do you want cargo to explode? Would you want another way for my ship to blow up, Todd?
Well, it's what we want to be able to do is have different things, different types of cargo. So, for example, maybe you got to do data, or, and with the data it's encrypted somehow, or maybe it will, almost like Mission Impossible itself and start smoking. Or in the case that we have Quantanium, that's supposed to be a volatile fuel, but again, it's risk reward. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is if we just want the player to have those kind of, if you want to go for this, then it's high money, but it's going to be high risk as well.
Quantanium.
I didn't name it.
Hey, from the live chat, lots of tests were run last night after the Idris battle was shown on ISC. Utilizing an EMP as currently balanced will likely make the Idris an easy dinner. Does the design team know this? We want a challenge.
Design team does notice. Basically, we're still going through and trying to play it right now. Right now, we have a crash where the QA department will be able to get up to the Idris mission or the Idris aspect, and then that crashes the game. So we haven't been able to do a lot of internal cycles on it yet. So, but I can guarantee you that those balance issues are going to come up internally, and then obviously once we release it out to you, then it will definitely come up that way.
Yeah, I'm aware of the Idris, but we almost had the segment go out yesterday with no footage whatsoever because we kept crashing every time. So what happens? Things work, and then they don't work, and then they work again. And we were on that downslope, like up until late Wednesday. So yeah.
We're still having issues with it, and the meeting that I got out of just right before this, and we're still having issues with it. So
let's see. How is PvP bounty hunting going to be different in 3.9? Is it?
I don't think it is.
And I think they're referring to there's a card on the public roadmap about PvP bounty improvements. I think that refers to the synced assassination missions and stuff like that. There's new. Well, those are PvE though. I don't know what it means for PvP.
The improvements are. It's not a big sweeping change. Like with bounty, the way that we want it to go, like there's a fair amount of work there, because right now you don't hunt. There's you just show up to a place and it's like, okay, there they are. Like there's no hunting. Like I want to feel like, the Mandalorian or Boba Fett. Like I want to go hunting.
You said Boba Fett in my presence. The card I think says it's like the allows players to hunt other players with bounties on their heads. Like so, it's like you can still hunt when you have a bounty on there. I'm not sure. We'd have to look at it. I made a note here. I'm going to follow up afterwards, and we'll see if we can't get some information on that. Will the temperature be different on day or night side of the moons and planets? And how will temperature change when spaceship doors are open if the environmental and spaceship's temperatures are very different?
Okay, so first things first, right now it will not be different. That's something that we're working on regarding the time of day change. The other aspects will be based off the room system. So when the spaceship opens, assuming there's not a bulkhead or airlock associated with it, then it will be vented and it will take on the larger room, which is basically the planet. And so therefore, your temperature will drop instantly. But those are being worked on now, so they're not in 3.9.
Yeah. And just as a follow-up, because we've got a message, somebody's looking up the PvP stuff. Just remember that there's a lot of people that work on the public roadmap, everybody, not just Todd and stuff like that. So not everybody can know everything about every aspect of Star Citizen.
No, again, we've got 3 major pillar directors, or I don't want to say major. We have 3 pillar directors that have multiple teams underneath them: Tony, Sean, myself. And then from there, there's Ian's got locations. Nick has S42. Like there's so much going on in this game that sometimes it's hard to keep everything,
Yeah, that's right.
in the head.
We got people on it. We'll see what it is. Will it be possible to repair, refuel, or restock ships that are currently stored? The pad-based system has been fairly unreliable as far back as 3.0.
It'll still be pad based for right now. Like eventually that's the goal. The goal is, for you to land and there to be a technician there that you say, okay, I want these things done. And then you go and do whatever you need to do. And that gets fixed in the background. Right now, we know the issues that are happening, obviously with LSR and even with some of our other locations regarding landing. So these, it won't be stored yet. It won't work yet. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
New Babbage clothing looked great, but it feels like New Babians would be wearing Hawaiian shirts to starkly contrast the weather outside. They saw Wally's bar yesterday on ISC. Not a question, just food for thought. Well, you're going to see more of New Babbage next week on ISC. Wally's bar is just one particularly themed area. It's amazing, don't get me wrong, but it is not what all of New Babbage looks like.
Looks like, yeah.
But I'm imagining this probably came from Tyler Wicken since it was a Hawaiian shirt thing. I just assume every Hawaiian shirt related thing comes from Tyler since they continuously come. Are the player interaction system improvements on the roadmap significant or just minor updates? And we've got a segment in development for ISC, they're going to see that. You're going to find out a lot more about what the I won't say what piss pit.
Yeah.
I just said I wouldn't say that, and I said it.
Sorry, I blinked out for a second.
How significant would you say the player interaction system improvements are?
Significant. I mean, we're changing. So it really is just the managing of stuff, and the goal is to basically get rid of the PMA. So the idea is the player can go in, select the weapons, select kind of hotkeys associated with those weapons, and do all of that in the player interaction system, and go through and I feel it's a game changer. Just awesome. because of the time that you spend going back and forth between the VMA the PMA and before. Like, I think this is a very, very good change.
Yeah, and we've got 3 more episodes of ISC this quarter. It's not the next episode, but it's one of the 2 after that. You'll get to see all about the player interaction system and stuff like that. And it's really cool looking. It's really impressive. If I'm allowed to have an opinion, it's just when I saw it, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I've been very happy with it, and I think the team has done a great job.
Will consuming food or water take time, or will it be an instant action like using a med pen? You gonna chew your food? We gonna chew our food, Todd?
It's okay. So consuming takes as long as the animation does. Now, what we've talked about in the past, right now, a burger would be eaten in 1 bite. Obviously, we know that's not the case. In the future, the idea would be that you take 3 or 4 bites out of it and then it's consumed. Now, one of the things that we do have is it depends on the size of the burger. One of the things that we do have right now is the food basically has kind of a consumption over time, absorption over time. It's the same thing with alcohol, with drinks. Mm-hmm. So basically, there's a certain time that it takes to break down and kind of move through your system. Now, what you'll see is basically you've been sustained, and it takes you up to that level and kind of resets the clock. And then as it's being absorbed, that bar is still hasn't been reset and started counting down. It just stays there until the absorption has stopped. Then the bar starts counting down, if I remember correctly on that one.
It's hard. Chris has been known to say for a while, you take things to the point of realism, then you bring them back to the point of fun. It's the conversation now is about how long it should take to eat a burger, and it's like we can go for that fidelity. You're forced to stop gameplay for a good 5 minutes while you eat a burger, but that might not be the most fun experience. So,
correct.
One of those things, you take it to the point of realism, you bring it back to the point of fun. Let's see. Can you tell us more about the surrender mechanic that was mentioned in an ISC segment earlier? The ability to it was the prison system. Instead of being forced to be killed, you can now surrender. Is that
actually, I don't have very many eyes on this one, so my gut feeling is right now I almost think it's out right now until we do a little bit more improvement on the prison system, because I think you just do get shot, and you will get you'll only go to prison as long as it's basically a security force that's killing you. And then once that security force has killed you, then you're stuck in prison for X amount of time. But the surrender mechanic, as far as I know, I don't remember seeing it working with the prison system just yet, but I could be wrong on that one since it's not under my pillar.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we got? Will radiation hazards be a part of the upcoming actor status system?
It will be, but not for 3.9. For the radiation, I think that's part of like version 1 or version 2, what we consider actor status. But it's basically we just need a little bit more time on that one, and we're building it. We're building it up and making sure it's not only radiation, but it's other hazards that will affect you, whether that be fire or smoke or anything else that could happen either on your ship or out in a strange planet.
Okay. Weapon attachment UIs aren't some. I don't think they're currently on the roadmap, but they are coming in 3.9. We're going to see it on ISC soon with the interaction system and that same segment. But do you want to give folks an early description of what players can expect for the weapon attachment UI?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've got just certain attachments that you can add, and it'll just bring up the weapon in front of your face, and then at that point in time, you can choose, all right, do I change out, the sights, or do I add something on the barrel or under barrel, or, so it really is just kind of, we want to make sure that we're showing off the weapon, as well as, the player gets that tactile experience of switching out.
Yeah, it's... when I was talking about when it looked cool, I realized that I was actually talking about the weapon attachment UI. Like, not that the other stuff doesn't look cool with the radial and stuff like that, but pulling up the weapon and then watching where the attachments would go and swapping out is really cool. It's I don't know. It's just I sometimes I get to be a fan, and I think this is cool. There's a reason we're saving it for the end of the. There's a reason we're saving it for the end of the quarter, because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, well, I think the weapon team has done a fantastic job over the years building in a lot of detail and a lot of things that the player a lot of times just won't experience when it's only on kind of this side of the screen. But obviously now you can actually look at it and you can really inspect it. And I mean, you can inspect it in stores before, but now you can actually show it off or do it outside of stores.
Gotcha. What about showers and toilets? At some point, the digested food has to come out again.
Did Bender ask this one?
I don't know, but it got over 100 votes, so it made the thread.
He might have voted on that one then. It's not for 3.9. We know that we have to do it. It's something that we've talked about with the actor status, and it's built into the actor status. I'll still push for like red outs, if you're too constipated or something like that, and then or blackouts if you smell bad from not taking a shower, kind of thing. So, or other players blackout, kind of thing.
So poor hygiene becomes chemical weaponry.
Yeah, basically.
Send your letters to Todd Papy, care of Cloud Imperium Games, Frankfurt. Let's see. Trading in 382 is difficult because stations don't offer enough for Carrack or Caterpillar players. We miss big, high-risk trading routes since the few patches. Please give trading a little love. That's not a question. It's just a request,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can go in and evaluate it. Again, whoever's taking notes for this meeting, then I'll speak to our guys in Austin about it.
Okay. Let's see. Why was prison gameplay prioritized over other missing game mechanics?
Basically to actually make piracy more legit, because right now, if you look at piracy mission rewards versus kind of good behavior mission rewards, like there was no disincentive to not do, not be a good boy or good girl kind of thing. So this is a way for us to really kind of focus on that and really show that there is a separation between right and wrong. And then obviously this feeds into other careers, like bounty hunting, piracy, saboteur, smuggling, so on and so forth. So like this is a way for us to kind of really start enforcing right and wrong in the system.
Yeah, we talked a bit with Luke Presley and the team when we did the segment earlier this quarter, and it's also prisons seems like it's a punishment. It seems like it's a bad thing for the bad players. But what it is it's actually you have to have the risk before we can provide greater rewards. I mean, there's a way to look at prisons where once we add the risk, we have to have the risk so that we can then create greater rewards for that lifestyle. So it's actually one of those net positive things for the people that want to play on the ill-refuted side of the law.
And I guess that if you look at it, like this does help. Like I said, anything that really kind of is on two sides of the law, whether that be law enforcement, bounty hunting, assassination, piracy, like it helps those career paths. So now, and there's gameplay associated with it there. So it's not just, like other games where, okay, you go to jail, you pay the fine, and instantly you respond. And now you don't have, anybody looking after you. Like there's time associated with it, and then from there that creates new unique gameplay of do I want to try to break out of jail, do I want to serve my time. So that's kind of the way that we're thinking about it, and that we view this as a foundational element in order to actually build those careers upon.
I think there's also a big drive for something like a Jumptown 2.0, like another big high risk, high reward PvP area.
Yeah,
like that. Well, that's actually it. I have to let you go. You got another meeting that you've got that I got to be able to get you to. The last question we have is: will there be any mining missions soon? They said like collect 5 tons of copper or something like that, but missions specifically for mining as the prospector is out and the mole is out and more personal mining tools are out.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is that with the mining missions, obviously we've got particularly that we need to build missions for, but right now I think the way that Tony and CR see mining as career, and missions is a little bit different than what I see mining missions, and so like we need to get on the same page first before we actually implement it. And so I want to be able to sit there and talk about it with him and explore the pros and cons of each, and then we go from there.
Cool. All right. That's it. I know you got to get to kickoff meeting. So, Todd, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
My pleasure.
On Friday. Folks, if you haven't, check out yesterday's Inside Star Citizen. Lots of good stuff about the cooperative play and multiplayer missions coming online in 3.8, including a look at the first NPC-controlled Idris that's looking to make life in the persistent universe just a little bit tougher. For Todd, Papy, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.